Welcome back. I'm so glad that everyone's come back to join us again this afternoon. Neil, we've had such a great day today so far.
Yeah, that was awesome. I hope everybody had a chance to get refreshed, use the washroom, get something to drink, and hopefully a snack. I did the same. I think one of the neat things about Wîcihitowin is we've been pretty fortunate over the years to have a bunch of speakers that really make you think, and even throughout your breaks and all the other time when we'd usually be having a nice snack with someone or maybe topping up our coffee, we'd probably be reflecting with each other about what we just experienced. And I think that presentation was no different than some of those other ones that we've had in the years past. Obviously, the vehicle and the medium is very different this year. But some of the things that I was left with as we kind of segued into the break, where I was thinking about our next speaker, Shayla Stonechild, and we've got our Wîcihitowin social media accounts. We shared a picture of her. And some of the things that I've been thinking about is I'm having a lot of fun today. Really, really, really lots of fun. And I'm just excited to be here. Really, really, really excited to be here. Happy so many people joined. But one of the other things that happened on the break was I just had a chance to review some of the social media accounts as well too, that we have there. And one of the sessions we have scheduled for tomorrow afternoon is the Survivors Circle, Residential School Survivors Circle. And in that one, I think we're all going to go on a bit of a journey of emotions. I think it always is when you're fortunate enough to hear those types of stories. You're in for more than you bargained for in a really good way, because again, just like it always leaves you thinking. So one of the things though, as we're joking and having fun, and we need to always joke and have fun and keep moving and celebrate all of that fun. We just acknowledge that it's not been a fun ride for everybody. And we need to acknowledge that there's been a lot of hurt, that have been experienced from especially residential school survivors, kind of whom we give voice to in this one. And I think since the world has entered a pandemic stage and we've not been able to gather live in person, one of the neat things is we're able to gather from far and wide in places we've never met. We can't touch each other, but we've usually all got to connect through some type of device. Oh, my homepage just came up. But the neat thing is not everybody is used to the technology. No. So that's kind of one of the challenges that we recognize. We're trying to work through, and I think as we get used to using these tools, we'll get better at them. Yeah. It was going back into one of the things that even Ira said. That's kind of one of the messages that really stuck with me, that resonated with her. Is similar again to something that my teachers often say, is that nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. And the longer we continue to wait for this hero or the savior, the more time that we're wasting. And we've got one life as individuals, one life to live. And so I really, one of the things that resonated with me about Ira's, some of her word was that even throughout a pandemic, we have to keep living. We have to still experience life. Like this is, for some of us, it depends where you are on your journey in life and where you are on your circle. But the reality is we're all experiencing this together and we have to continue living, right? So that's the neat thing. And I liked about the teachers. We got to teach each other and show each other technology. So I'm really excited. We have so many residential school survivors tuned in today. One of the awesome initiatives this past year that the Saskatoon Community Foundation did was they purchased a whole bunch of iPads for lots of the elders that we have in Saskatoon here, just so that they can stay connected and stay engaged throughout this. And they did that right near the beginning of the pandemic. So my hat's off to the Saskatoon Community Foundation. My dad was on that list. I remember just going to his house and, son, how do I get on Zoom? How do I get on Zoom? And he is, but now that guy's an expert at that. So, but he's just one of many. We have to keep teaching and showing folks how to stay connected and how to use all of these.
And not everybody has a Neil.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So exactly. We have to find all those who don't have a Neil.
or be that person. Be
Yeah,
that person that goes
exactly.
to get your neighbor connected, your
Yeah.
grandpa connected, your auntie, whomever it may be. So I just want to say those are some of the most practical and easy things that we can do, that you don't need to wait for a big work policy to actually,
Yeah, true.
keep the conversation going and keep
Very
connected.
true.
So one of the things that the residential school survivors say, as we kind of segue into Shayla's presentation, is that they gave us, just like Ira, they gave us a lot of their dreams and aspirations, and they share that with us when they're reflecting on their stories and sometimes their hardships. And they really hope those hardships aren't for nothing, and that they want to see some fruits, for that sacrifice. And one of the goals, that I've always heard is they just want us all to be whomever we were meant to be. I think as we've learned throughout the history of Wîcihitowin, we know the impacts of residential school, and we know we're still really living with a lot of that residue from that whole era. We're starting to share different ways that we're starting to clean that up and wash that away. But I think that it's just one of the things that they wanted as an aspiration. They didn't want somebody to tell you who you were supposed to be. They didn't say, leave your language alone, leave your culture alone, this is who you're supposed to be. And they messed up our instructions. That's kind of the lesson we learned. And they wanted kids to just be whomever they wanted to be. I'm fortunate today that I've got one of my own children working beside me today. He's behind the camera. But one of his goals, this guy wants to win like a Grammy Award and an Oscar Award. And it's so, I don't know, it's cool. And I think that all you just wanted, you wanted your kid to have a dream like that. Farther than the moon. You wanted it to be that far away. And you wanted it to be that real, though, that they can go and get it. And I think that as I reflect, because, April and I had the luxury of watching these presentations in advance. But it's something that I want to share with you and just plant the seed in your head as you watch Shayla just become who she wanted to be, with nobody telling her who she was or what she was supposed to be. And I think that was the neat thing. I've not had the privilege of getting to meet her yet. But one of the things that we've prided ourselves with the Wîcihitowin conference is showcasing young people and letting young people feed us with their fire. Last year, we made the joke, they literally set our stage on fire with their passion, and we had to get a new one. So I'm really looking forward to sharing Shayla's story with everybody, picking up those things and thinking about those old people that gave us their dreams, shared their hurts with us, told us the sacrifices they made to have futures like this young lady has, that she's made for herself and carved for herself. So with that though, I'd like to please introduce Shayla. Let's give her the proper introduction.
For sure. So I will now just read Shayla's biography, and then we'll go into that. And Neil, thank you so much for that introduction. Every year, this is our 6th year, as we've mentioned, that I get to work with Neil. And I learned so much from him and his stories as well. And that's all part of the learning, I think, of the Wîcihitowin conference. So even though he jokes about talking a lot, I think we get so much more back from him. So thank you so much, Neil. Now I'm just going to read Shayla's biography. Shayla Stonechild, she's an award-winning television host with APTN, yoga instructor, and wellness advocate. She is the founder of the Matriarch Movement, a meditation and movement platform dedicated to bringing awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls crisis. For those of you who don't know Shayla, she is a Nehiyaw Escote Plains Cree woman from Mascoubatang First Nations.
Muscopita.
Muscopita, thanks. Muscopita. First Nations. Shayla has always been a catalyst towards Indigenous youth and women unlocking their full potential by reclaiming their voices, bodies, and spirits. She believes there is a shift in humanity right now, The arts, meditation, movement, and reclaiming Indigenous worldviews are helping to amplify that shift. Over the next 60 minutes or so, Shayla is going to tell her story and how she changed her life from dealing with intergenerational trauma to healing, and how that helped her build intergenerational resilience. And with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Shayla Stonechild.
Hello, Tanse. My name is Shayla Stonechild. My pronouns are she, her. I'm tuning in from the unceded Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, also known as Vancouver, BC. However, I'm from Musqueam First Nations Treaty 4 territory, but I was born and raised in Medicine Hat, Alberta, but I've been in Vancouver for about 7 years. So I invite you to join me on this journey of reclaiming your inner Escote. I'm laughing because the colonized me had to make sure that I was pronouncing fire in Cree right, and my apologies if that pronunciation is not 100%, but that's a part of the power of reclaiming our traditional language and our traditional culture and our Indigenous values. So this 60-minute keynote will tie in a few things. It'll tie in meditation, my story, a little bit of the background of the history of Canada, and then how do we move forward and how can you reclaim your own inner fire and walk together in this new earth. All right, so I invite you to join me on this journey. We'll start with a brief meditation. So either sitting down or standing up, gently place both your feet firmly on the ground, and then shift your weight forward, backward, side to side. Just find your center for today. And when you're ready, gently lift each toe up off the earth, and then gently place each toe back down. Roll your shoulder blades onto your back, open up through your heart. Palms can be face down if you need to be more grounded, or palms face up if you need a little bit more energy. If you haven't already, I invite you to gently close your eyes or bring a soft gaze to the floor in front of you. Take a deep breath in through your nose, and exhale, side out your mouth. Taking another deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, side out your mouth. Letting your morning go, letting your week go, and arriving here right now. Taking another deep breath in through your nose. This time, exhaling through your nose. And taking another deep breath in through your nose. Exhaling through your nose. And now I invite you to tune in with the space around you. So what is the sound that is farthest away from you? It might be a car driving by, maybe it's a fan in the room, maybe it's someone else in the room with you. Just notice the sound. And now, what is the sound that is closest to you? Taking another deep breath in through your nose. Exhale. Maybe it's your breath, maybe it's your neighbor's breath. Again, just noticing. And now tune in with the space around your body. So feel the way your clothes feel on your skin. Notice any tension you may be holding between your shoulder blades. Maybe you can loosen your jaw a little bit. Taking another deep breath into expansion. And exhale, releasing, softening. We'll do 4 more cycles of breath. 4 to honor the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, and the 4 aspects to our well-being. Taking another deep breath into your belly, your ribs, your shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. Inhale to your belly, your ribs, your shoulders. Exhale from your shoulders, ribs, belly. Do the last 2 cycles with your own breath. Each inhale, you're expanding, getting taller. And each exhale, you're releasing, getting softer. When you're ready, root down through Mother Earth, and it's like you have a string pulling you from Mother Earth to Father Sky. Inhale your arms up overhead, acknowledging Father Sky. Exhale, hands through heart center, gently bowing your head into your heart and acknowledging yourself and your own lineage from where you come from. Who had to sacrifice something for you to be breathing, living, thriving in this very moment? Taking another deep breath in and exhale. And now I invite you to create an intention for this keynote, this workshop. Maybe it's to listen, maybe it's to be present, maybe it's to get curious. What is your intention for today, for this session? Breathe into that intention and exhale, coming back to center, gently opening your eyes, coming back to the present moment, letting that intention be your guide for today's journey. And so today's presentation began with a meditation. Now I'm going to go a bit into my story, and it's also a little workshop based. So I don't know if you want to grab a journal, a pen, whatever you need. So reclaim your inner Escote. Presented by Shayla Stonechild. My Instagram is Shayla0H. My website is www.shaylastonechild.com. So a little bit about myself before we go to the next slide. I'm a yoga instructor out here in Vancouver at a studio called Common Ground that just opened up during the pandemic. But they're creating an all-inclusive environment regardless of age, gender, or body type. We all have taken trauma-informed training, and so what they're doing is they're really shifting the norm for the fitness industry out in Vancouver, and so I'm super excited to be a part of that team. I'm also the host of APTN's Red Earth Uncovered. We're in season 3 right now, and so there I have a chance to travel around Turtle Island, and for those of you who don't know what Turtle Island is, it is what we called the United States and Canada before the colonial borders came into existence. So I have the chance to travel around Turtle Island, reclaiming and researching Indigenous legends and how they affected our history or how they've played out, and reclaiming those legends and those teachings behind it. So I have a chance to interview experts, eyewitnesses, and elders. Aside from that, I'm also the founder of the Matriarch Movement, which is an online platform amplifying Indigenous women's voices and the way they reclaim their power through their stories, through meditation, through movement, yoga, and through medicine. And when I say medicine, I mean reclaiming an Indigenous worldview. So I'm the founder of the Matriarch, yoga instructor, host. I also do a bit of acting, but enough about me. Let's start with the presentation. Oh, more about me. Okay, so my story begins when my father, who is Cree, Kevin Stonechild, he was a writer, and my mother, who's Métis, L'Orealette, met. My story begins when they met in a prison. And if that's not the best love story you've ever heard, then I don't know what else is. But in all honesty, they met in a prison. My mom was a facilitator like me, and my dad, his story began in residential school. He went through the residential school system, and at the age of 16, my dad was in a severe car accident. There was a car full of people, and at the time, his girlfriend was sitting on his lap, and they were driving, and the car eventually rolled, and his girlfriend flew out the front window, and she was killed on scene. And so at the age of 16 for my dad, he was prescribed a series of painkillers and medication and morphine for his injuries. And eventually this led him to be addicted to the painkillers that he was on. And so this started the cycle of addiction for my father. But my father was also a brilliant writer. The way I speak and the way I talk and the way I articulate things through my writing, I feel is, you know, a part of him. I'm just a vessel for his own legacy. And so my story begins there. So when he was 16, he was in that accident, and he battled a lot of demons, and, you know, he battled his own demons. But also I realized, you know, as I grew older, that this story is so common in many First Nations communities. My father took his life when I was 16 years old in the correctional facility out in Abbotsford. And at the time, I didn't understand really what happened. And, you know, grief, it's so different for each of us. And so for me, I was in a state of shock for a bit. But then I realized I had a shift in my awareness. At 16, I realized that I had two options. One, I could either become a victim to this event and blame everything on this period in my life, which I had every right to, or I could make sure that I would never feel that low again. And I could make sure that anyone in my life would never feel that low. I wanted to be a catalyst for other people's healing. And so at the age of 16, I had a shift in my awareness. And so like I was saying, this is really common in First Nations communities. My story is not, unfortunately, it's not original. Suicide is the leading cause of death in First Nations communities, and most of the population is now made up of youth. And also the rates for Indigenous men being in prisons is way higher than non-Indigenous males, as well as the suicide rates for Indigenous males is way higher than non-Indigenous. This is an old graph, but it shows you, you know, the males for First Nations is way up versus non-Indigenous. And then for the females, you know, there's still a drastic change. And so how many lives have to leave us before we start waking up, acknowledging what happened in the past so that we can heal within the present and form a more humane pathway forward? Canada has a shadow side of history, and the shadow side is woven with patriarchy, genocide, colonialism, capitalism. And I feel in Canada, we just kind of sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. But part of healing is actually bringing forth, integrating your shadow side, acknowledging each other's wounds and traumas so that we can heal and transmute our pain and our anger and our sadness and our grief. And so at 16, I realized this, and I went on to compete in Miss Teen Canada, and there I learned how to use my platform and my voice to ignite change. At 18, I moved to Vancouver and I went to Vancouver Academy of Dramatic Arts. But I also realized that I had my own cycles to break. That's the thing. We hear this term intergenerational trauma, and I believe it exists, but also intergenerational resilience. I had this conversation with someone the other day, and they're like, well, you don't want to stay in a victim mindset. I'm like, I'm actually not a victim at all. I feel powerful to know that Indigenous people have survived genocide, smallpox, the 60 scoop, you know, we've survived so much. So that makes me feel resilient and powerful. I don't feel like I'm a victim. It gives me more strength to know that I have this history, this legacy of strong ancestors and a strong bloodline. And so my work, a lot of it is reclaiming an Indigenous worldview, because Indigenous worldview is based on respect, it's based on a reciprocal relationship, and it's relationship based. We've always had a relationship to the land, the water, the sky, each other. Colonialism, capitalism has torn us away from the land, the water, the sky, and even each other. This has resulted in a fragmentation of the world around us, but also within ourselves. And so Indigenous worldview is based on wholeness. It's about integration. It's about bringing the shadow aspects and the good aspects and uniting and forming a holistic picture, a holistic approach. The medicine wheel, we're gonna get into that later. So coming back to the state of resilience, now there's a shift happening within humanity, especially for Indigenous people. We're moving from a state of survival into a state of thriving. We're reclaiming our language, our traditions, our values, our culture, our dances, and our wisdom and our ceremonies. You know, we weren't allowed to practice a lot of these things back in 1960s. The last residential school closed in 1996. So, but we're shifting. We're shifting from a state of survival into a state of thriving. Thrival? Is that a word? Thrival. There's now. So when you look at the term resilience, the definition is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. The ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity. So, if you have an elastic band and you go to stretch it, it stretches out, but then it comes back to its natural form. And so Indigenous people, this is what we have elasticity, we have fluidity, we are adaptable, we have learned the colonizer's tongue, we have been in the educational systems, we had the chief and council system, introduced to us through the Indian Act too. So we have learned all these ways. We're super adaptable and we're super resilient, and we have a lot of fluidity and elasticity. So reclaiming your inner fire it's never left. It's already within you. We may have just got a little bit off path. Okay, so I like to make my sessions a little more interactive. So having your journal, I invite you to answer these 3 questions. And if you don't have a journal, you could just think about them. So 1, what does it look and feel like when you are in your power and when you are in your truth? So how does it look and feel like when you're in your power and your truth? So for me, when I'm in my power and my truth, I feel expansive, I feel powerful. I feel authentic, I feel motivated, I feel very light, I feel literally my body feels more expanded. I'm more hopeful, I see a lot more opportunities, have more of an objective view and less of like a narrow focus. I see myself connected to everything and everyone. So what does it look and how does it feel when you are in your power and your truth? And moving on to the second question, what does it look like and how does it feel when you're not in your power or your truth? So this is the thing about cycles and of awareness. When I'm not in my power and my truth, I can feel it in my body. I feel lethargic, I feel overwhelmed, I feel like exhausted. I feel separate, narrow focused, not motivated. So how does it look and how does it feel when you are not in your power or your truth? And moving on to the third question, what are the ways that you reclaim your inner fire? So another word could be, what are ways you reclaim your resilience? What are ways you reclaim your truth, your power? So for me, it's meditation, it's yoga, it's journaling, it's talking, communicating with my support system, might be drawing, going for a walk, going into nature. What are the ways you reclaim your inner Escote? Escote. All right, and moving on. So a lot of my workshops within the wellness world, it always comes back to the medicine wheel. And for those of you who don't know what the medicine wheel is, it's just a lot of every Indigenous culture pretty much has the medicine wheel, but we may interpret it differently depending on which nation or tribe that we're from. This one here, we have it divided into the 4 sections, like always. However, I like this one because it actually incorporates a little bit about the Eastern lineage as well. So like I was saying, when I went to yoga teacher training, I saw similarities between Indigenous philosophy and the yogic philosophy. Well, I like this because it kind of incorporates that as well. And so the medicine wheel is a circle of life. It's divided into 4 sections, 4 to represent the 4 directions, north, east, south, west, the 4 states to our well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, the 4 races, white, yellow, red, black, the 4 directions, 4 seasons, fall, winter, spring, summer. And this one, it shows you like where the chakra system is incorporated in this. So this, it says a 7th chakra is in the north, and I don't know if you've studied any of the chakra system. We're not going to get into that, but if you want to, I'll show you another workshop. Anyways, okay, so in the center of the medicine wheel is you, yourself, your highest self. And above the medicine wheel is Father Sky. Below the medicine wheel is Mother Earth, like when we started with that meditation, anchoring down from Mother Earth to Father Sky. In the center is you. And then when you move on the outside of the circle, it's, you know, your support system, your family, your friends. And then if you imagine another circle outside of this circle, it's your community, and then another circle outside this circle, and it's global. And so the medicine wheel, anytime I'm out of balance, I come back to the teachings of the medicine wheel, because that's what the medicine wheel is. It cultivates balance and harmony between mind, body, spirit connection. All right, so science in the mainstream is now catching up to what Indigenous people have known all along. And you may have heard the law of attraction, the law of vibration. This is the law of creation. And so I made this video the other day on my Instagram, but it was actually a message that I had come forth. And so Indigenous people call creator creator. And is there a reason why we call, you know, God, source, Allah, creator in Indigenous culture? I believe because creator, we knew back in the day that we were the creators of the reality that we experienced. Everything that was happening in our external world was a reflection of our own internal being. And so this idea that God is outside of you, this fragmented version, is not necessarily it. I believe we're an aspect of creator, and so you do your prayers, your ceremonies, but it's about purifying and detoxing your system so that you can align with the messages from the divine and from creator. And so you are not separate from creator, you are an aspect of creator itself. Your expansion is no different than creator's expansion. And so this idea of the law of attraction is actually called the law of vibration, and it has been here as long as Indigenous people have been here. And coming back into that shift that we're currently going in. So when you're in a state of survival, this is from Dr. Joe Dispenza, by the way. He's a neuroscientist bridging the gap between science and spirituality, and he talks about the neuroscience behind meditation. And so this is a graph from his book. And so he says, when you're living in a state of survival, you're living in a state of stress, contraction, dis-ease, imbalance, fear, anger, sadness, You're selfish, you're narrow focused, you're separate from everything, everyone. You only see limited possibilities. Your energy's lost. You feel in a state of emergency, and you're only focused on the known facts. However, when you're living in a state of creation, you're living in a state of homeostasis. You're living in a state of expansion, of health, of order, of love, joy, trust, of selflessness, of your open focus. You see more opportunity. It's all possibilities. You're connected. Energy is created. You can grow, you can repair, and life's a bit more of the unknown. Again, all those possibilities. And so when you go into meditation, I'm gonna go back to that one after, but so meditation, before we get into meditation, you have to realize that 95% of your mind is the subconscious mind and 5% is the conscious mind. So the 95% of the subconscious mind is where your habits, your conditioning, your memories, your childhood are all stored. And the 5% of the conscious mind is what you do in everyday life. We're conscious right now, hopefully. We're in the beta brainwave state. And so when you're going into meditation, when you start meditating, you're tapping into the deeper layers of your psyche. You're going into the subconscious mind. And so Nike's slogan, "Just do it," is great for the conscious mind, but you won't actually see tangible change until you start tapping into your subconscious mind. And how do you do that? Well, there's so many modalities now. There's yoga nidra, there's sound therapy, there's Hertz frequency, there's meditation, yoga. There's so many modalities. The ones that I'll be speaking on are meditation. And so anatomy of the mind, meditation gives you access to your mind's most powerful layers. And so like I was saying, this is the conscious mind. So this is more the educated mind, intellectualism, the logic, the linear, the thinking mind. And then the subconscious is, your intuition. It's incredibly powerful. This is your gut feelings, untapped talent, stress-free, limitless creativity. And then this is the unconscious mind. And we're not going to focus on that today because this is pretty much just like your automatic functioning, like your heartbeat beating, stuff that you don't really think about, that just happens automatically. But it also drives the dreaming state. This is where your cellular memory is. So the unconscious is like stuff that you're not even aware of, the stuff that you don't know. But going back, so when we did that meditation at the beginning of this session, I had you to close your eyes. So already you're turning off your sensory perception. You're turning inward. I had you listen to the sounds around the room. So you're getting out of the conscious, the logical thinking mind, and you're opening, expanding to the environment that's around you. And so you're starting to alter your brainwave state. This is what makes meditation so interesting to me, is you're literally tapping into the deeper layers of your psyche. And so when you go into meditation, you're going from the beta brainwave state. So the beta brainwave state is the conscious mind. It's what we're in, it's how you're viewing this right now. However, when you meditate, you actually start tapping into the alpha and theta state. So physically and mentally relaxed, awake but drowsy. It's like you're almost sleeping, not really. And so this is how you start tapping into your subconscious mind. And I just want to give you an example because some of this can seem overwhelming, but I went to a yoga nidra teacher training, and yoga nidra is, it's like, again, it's not physical postures, you're in meditation, you're laying down on a yoga mat, and the facilitator takes you through a body scan, and yoga nidra practices can last anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes. And so they're making you focus on different parts of your body. They're putting you into a really relaxed parasympathetic state. And I didn't realize this, but the one facilitator, while we were in this theta state, this half awake but not really half sleeping state, she started listing off a series of images. And so she is saying stuff like, there's a mountain, there's a cloud, there's a tree, there's a textbook, there's a school, there's a cross. When she said cross, I felt this twist in my gut. And that was because of what has happened in our history with the churches and the Catholic Church and the residential school. So I had this wrenching gut feeling in my stomach, and then I had brought forth a thing that was unconscious, that was affecting me emotionally, into my awareness, so that I then can do the work to transmute and release that pain or that judgment or that fear or that guilt. So that's what meditation does, is it gets you out of your thinking mind into your body, into your heart, into your subconscious, so that you can become aware of the things that you're not even aware of, that hold you back from you being in your truth, from you being in your inner fire. All right, so coming back to the journal session, I invite you to create, actually, I'm not done explaining this yet. So we're gonna go up over here. So this is the law of creation. And so when you're operating at a state of joy, freedom, love, empowerment, passion, happiness, hopefulness, belief, positivity, you're actually becoming less matter and more energy. And then when you're operating at lower vibrational frequencies, insecurity, jealousy, rage, worry, anger, you're becoming more matter, more physical. And so meditation allows you to shift your feelings. And this is not to say to just spiritually bypass them, but it allows you to come into your feelings so that you become aware of them, so that you can shift and transmute them and come out on the other side. All right, so in your journal, I invite you to create an intention. And the definition of intention is a thing intended, an aim or plan, the healing process of a wound. I really like that definition. So write down 4 intentions you have specifically for this month. Just start with that. And so I call this micro goals. So for example, 4 intentions I have is make my own schedule in more rest, go to hot yoga at least 3 times a week, and meditate at least 5 minutes every day. So write down 4 intentions, 4 goals that you have for this month. And then once you finish that, I invite you to write down 4 macro goals you have. So macro is 6 months. So I know with COVID, it's kind of made us all pivot, no matter what job or role that you're currently playing with in society. So what could you do within the next 6 months if you had to pivot? For example, for me, I've been doing a lot more online work. Obviously, social media and marketing is now taking off because they don't have a chance to put all the advertising funds into sporting events or to events in general. And so they're now putting a lot more money into like the influencer market. So I've pivoted and have now been doing a lot more online work. So in the next 6 months, what are your goals? And we're working with the number 4 again, 4 to honor the 4 directions, the 4 seasons. And then after you've completed your 4 micro, your 4 macro, now I invite you to create 4 feelings you want to feel. So I want to feel liberated, free, powerful, excited, authentic, like I'm living in my truth. 4 feelings you want to feel. And then we're just gonna go on. All right, so intentions are great, but we need to think about the impact that we're making behind the intentions. So is your intention impacting the land, the water, each other, and future generations in a positive or negative way? And is your intention just for yourself, or is it for the collective? Is it for the next 7 generations? And so impact, the definition is having a strong effect on someone or something, also influence effect. And so wrapping up the journal session with how can we cultivate balance and harmony within our support system, within our community, and globally. So you can have 3 different sections. So how can you affect your support system? For example, maybe this is having a conversation, a difficult conversation. Maybe this is phoning up a friend and, admitting you're wrong. Maybe this is creating a boundary with someone in your support system. Maybe this is letting someone within your support system go. And that's also creating balance and harmony. That's creating boundaries. And so the next part of that is, how can we cultivate balance and harmony within our community? So what are things that you can do within your community or to make you feel like you have more of a sense of community? For me, I do an online yoga session with the Native Women's Wellness Center of Toronto. And so that's creating an online community during COVID. If you want to join, just let me know when. It's every Thursday. And then how can we cultivate balance and harmony globally, on a global scale? This one's a little more tough. But what we've realized, what we've now being shown with this pandemic is our actions that we take as individuals have the ability to affect the whole. So me not wearing a mask could affect someone within that. So even though our actions seem so individual, they're actually not. It creates a ripple effect throughout humanity. So thinking about your intentions and your impact behind them. And then we're just gonna move on just for time-wise. Okay, so there's a lot of concepts I'm trying to get into this presentation. So I want you to imagine that you have an avatar. There's this little you. And you start playing with your avatar. You like to dress it up, take it out. You go take it to fancy restaurants. You get all the fancy clothes. You buy a fancy car. You buy a nice big house. You have all the things you need in the external environment. You have all the things you need to feel successful. You have a good paying job, but you're still not that satisfied. You just always feel like you're in a state of lack or something's missing. And this is because you've become so focused on the avatar that you are starting to live up to someone else's definition of success. And so what I call this colonial world is the matrix. We've been given this illusion that we need X, Y, and Z to be happy. That we need the new car, the new watch, the new fame, the new followers to be happy and to live a good life. Yet we're still empty. And that's because a lot of us are not even connected to our inner fire, our own intuition, or our own inner guidance system anymore. We rely heavily on external validation through fame, followers, fortune. And at the end of the day, for what? What is the legacy and the impact that you're going to leave on this world? Because you're not going to be able to take any of those 3D things with you. And so I call the colonial world the Matrix. Not to get super, deep. Everyone's like, you're so deep. I'm like, I just really think about our actions and the way we live. And that's another thing, is like, you can have these intentions, but if you're not taking inspired action behind them, then they're not going to manifest into your reality. So you have to have the intention, the inspired action, and be aware of the impact behind that. Did you hear that? That was my stomach. Okay, moving on. Okay, so tying everything up, how to reclaim your inner Escote. So 1 is awareness, becoming aware of your unconscious and subconscious patterns, who and what you put your energy into. If you want to start meditating, I invite you to start with only 5 minutes a day. Do it as soon as you wake up or before you go to sleep. And if you commit to that, even just for 2 weeks, you're going to start to notice a complete change in yourself and the way you feel. I tried this on my brother, actually, and he was super hesitant. They're like, oh, I'm just my sister trying to get me to do something again. But now he's meditating every single day. It's funny. Sometimes we'll get into a fight and then I'll just be like, great, meditate. And he's just like, he's just all peaceful. All of a sudden I'm like, okay, but it's actually working for him. And so meditation has the ability to transform your life, and it's coming into awareness, becoming aware of your unconscious and subconscious patterns, who and what you put your energy into. And so if you want to meditate for 5 minutes a day, that's great, but you can also download the app called Insight Timer. I believe it's free. They have thousands of meditations. They have one specific for anxiety. They have Yoga Nidra, the practice I was talking about earlier. They have all these different meditations on there, and they're completely free. Oh, there it goes. Meditation, downloading Insight Timer. The next one would be yoga movement, any type of movement to connect mind, body, spirit. So whatever movement you like in your life. For me, it's yoga. Yoga is also meditation in motion. Yoga is also an act of surrendering to the divine, to creator. If you think of your poses as prayers, you're doing it with an intention. Maybe it's hockey for you, basketball, baseball, whatever your niche is for movement. You want to start sweating and literally detoxing, getting that stagnant energy moving. Also, I realized that is another privilege, to have that accessibility in your body. So even chair yoga, and that's the thing, you want to start just taking the small daily actions, those micro goals, so that they'll start to ripple and create an effect throughout your life. The next one is sound therapy. So sound therapy has another way of altering your brainwave state, moving from that beta brainwave state into alpha and theta. So it's shifting your brainwave state, moving into the subconscious layers of your mind. And you can do that through sound therapy. You can search binaural beats or hertz frequency on YouTube. And it's really good, if you're stressed out and, meditation is not working. I throw on my headphones, search binaural beats, and each hertz frequency is for a different feeling. So there's one for focus, there's one for sleeping. They have different hertz frequencies for different feelings. And then the next one is coming back to ceremony, reclaiming ceremony. Again, with COVID, I've realized ceremony can also be your own ceremony, making your life a moving prayer. Starting the day with a smudge, starting your day with maybe some chanting, maybe some mantra work, maybe a prayer. I go sometimes to the ocean out in Vancouver. I go to Kitsilano Beach and I offer tobacco, and I create that reciprocal relationship between myself and creator. But usually ceremony for us would be, sweats and powwows. I also put rituals in there though. Creating rituals during COVID is essential because it's giving you a foundation that no matter what's happening in the external, these rituals will bring you back into homeostasis, back into you and your inner fire. All right, moving on. Invest. I think right now a lot of people are taking education now because we're not traveling or anything. I was talking to this teacher and she's like, we thought the enrollment would go down, but it's gone way more up. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, what else are we supposed to do out here? We gotta learn. So invest in your education, invest in training, invest in programs, invest in online courses. Journaling, gratitude journal, free flow. That's another way to tap more into your subconscious, is just, writing, letting whatever words spill out onto paper. Connecting with nature, again, reclaiming Indigenous values and a worldview is reclaiming our relationships with nature and with each other. So I will go and offer tobacco and I will speak to my ancestors as if they're in the room with me. I'll speak to a tree. Energy, it's frequency, it's vibration. Reading. So a lot of the work that I reference is because of Sherry Mitchell. She's an Indigenous woman, activist, attorney, and author. She's written this book called Sacred Instructions. And in this book, she talks about colonization and capitalism and the effects it's had on our spiritual well-being. And she also talks about reclaiming Indigenous values. And so a lot of the work that I talk about is also in reference to what she has already paved the way for us. So you can buy the book Sacred Instructions by Sherry Mitchell. A lot of the work that I'm also referencing here is from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Again, he's a neuroscientist bridging the gap between science and spirituality. So again, more of the neuroscience behind meditation. You can buy the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That book also changed my life. That graph between survival and creation, that's from his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Another book that changed my life was A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I hope I'm saying his name right. He talks about consciousness and how to live in your spirit rather in a state of ego. And then the last one is podcasts. So a few podcasts that I listen to that have really helped me are All My Relations podcast, Create the Love podcast by my friend Mark Groves, and Mariam Hasna, who is an energy worker as well. And then I just want to tie up and bring it all back to center. So this can feel overwhelming. It might be like information overload, but I also realized that a part of me doing this work is making sure that I invite other people to start doing it as well. And so I hope something during this whole presentation resonated with you, and that maybe you want to learn more about meditation or movement or medicine. How can you move in a way throughout life that is leaving an impact in the good way? And so coming back to this aspect of the medicine wheel, coming back to wholeness, coming back to a holistic perspective of what's happening now. And I think that's the shift that we need. When we talk about shifting into a new earth frequency, it's not really a new earth. It's actually reclaiming indigenous knowledge and wisdom and ancient teachings that have been here for centuries. We have just lost our way through colonization and through capitalism and through the patriarchy. And I laugh because some people don't like hearing that, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And the thing is, a lot of people don't realize that the law of creation has been here for centuries. And so right now we're in a pivotal moment for humanity. It's becoming clear to us that we can't live the way we've been living. The way we have been living has been short-term satisfaction. It's been short-term wealth, it's all super short-term. What are the long-term effects that we are making on our planet as a whole? Mother Earth is going through a state of cleansing right now. As I'm speaking, there's smoke outside in Vancouver. You can barely see the ocean. The whole West Coast is on fire. this pandemic that's happened has shown us how fragile our life is. And so how many more lives, natural disasters, suicides do we have to go through for us to start waking up and doing the work? And I'm here today to say it starts with you, and your actions have the ability to affect the whole. Once you start doing those daily actions, it will create a ripple effect throughout humanity. And the first step is becoming aware of it, looking at our shadow aspects of a country, but also the shadow aspects within ourselves and how we may hold biases and how we may be racist and how we may be not be living in our truth because we're trying to live up to someone else's truth. So my question is, what is your truth? And how are you going to move forward in this new earth timeline? Are you going to still grasp onto this illusion of control? Because it's become very clear that we have no control over what is happening right now. But we do have control of our own inner Escote. Yeah. See, I told you. Everyone says I get deep, and I do sometimes. All right. Yeah, I think I covered everything. Sweet. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much. Oh, I want to end. I'll end with two things. I'll end with a smudge. So, again, reclaiming Indigenous values, wisdom. Smudging is a ceremony. It's a state of purification. It's coming back to that balance, mind, body, spirit connection. So thank you, Creator Hi, for allowing us to gather virtually and to be in community from wherever everyone is tuning in from. Just taking a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're currently tuning in from. Acknowledging the generation that was here before us, the generation that is here now, and the generation that has yet to come, for sharing space virtually. I pray for abundance physically, mentally, emotionally for each participant, and for clarity and guidance in the next few months, and how to walk forward in a good way that is good for the impact of all of us, and how we can heal from the past, reunite within the present, and form a more humane pathway forward. Thank you, Creator Hi, for all the opportunities and for allowing me to be a vessel and a voice for this workshop. And I'll end with choosing a card. And so I do this in a lot of my workshops. It's the Sacred Path Oracle cards. It's by Linda Chalmers. They're Indigenous cards. They got medicine wheel on it. So what message do we need to be brought forward for the collective to serve our highest good? Purification. It's funny how things always line up. I was just saying we're smudging for purification. Purification, the sweat lodge. When you go into a sweat, you go in with an intention, a dedication. When it gets so hot, you can barely handle the heat. You just think about your intention. You think of what you're there. You sacrifice yourself to align with something outside of you, to align with a higher power, to align with God, to align with Creator, whatever you call source. So coming back to purification, coming back to the sweat lodge ceremony, we're in a process of purification within humanity right now, with the fires, with Mother Earth cleansing herself. And so what do you need to purify? What do you need to let go of so that you can walk in a new way, so that you can become who you're meant to be on this planet? Thank you, Hi, for allowing me to guide you in a meditation, share space with you virtually. I'm super honored to be here. And I wish I could see each one of you individually and, make everyone do downward facing dog at yoga pose. But maybe next year. Awesome. So thank you. Hi. Have a beautiful day. You can follow me at Shayla0H. You can also follow the Matriarch Movement at matriarch.movement. If you also want to be a part of it or donate or support, you can visit the website www.matriarchmovement.ca. Thank you.
I'm not a statistic.
I am not a statistic.
I am not a statistic.
I am not
A statistic.
We are not a statistic.
We are not a statistic.
We are.
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 We are the Matriarch Movement.
Consider yourself officially a part of this movement.
Yes, Shayla.
Thank you, Shayla.
Thank you, Shayla.
That would have been a little awkward coming back into it from a downward
Downward
dog
dog.
into a standing
Neil was
O.
trying to, but we thought standing up was the best.
Exactly.
And an ovation.
Yes, so thank you very much, Shayla Stonechild.
Thank you.
Follow Shayla on her Insta. She shared with you that. 30,000 followers. 30,000
How many
followers.
do you have?
Let's talk about
Okay.
tomorrow. Let's talk about tomorrow. Enough about this follower stuff, but Shayla Stonechild has 30,000.
And I think, thank you so much to her for
Yes.
such a great
I'm glad you're not
presentation.
talking about followers anymore and
No.
how many more you had than me, but Shayla Stonechild has
Here's a vote.
30,000.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. Just keep going. Through the fire. That hurt. Okay, let's keep going. So,
Sorry, okay.
sorry, please.
Okay, we're
Okay,
gonna move on.
one of the neat things, and I think that's one of the, as I went through Shayla's workshop with her, because she gave us a bit of a workshop, definitely a little bit different than what we're used to as far as our youth platform. But this year we wanted to do it a little bit different. Everything was circumstances totally changed. So our recipe had to change with it.
And I think also the tools and the skills that we have to develop as we go through this pandemic. And I think that's also what Shayla was talking about.
And the neat thing is, I think when you look back to our youth panel over the years, they've always kind of fed off the energy of each other. And so that was the neat thing, is kind of we all got to feed off of Shayla's energy with her this time. And one of the things that through her presentation, in the beginning especially, first she mentioned the love story and the recipe for love. And heck yeah, if that's not a Disney story for you, where her parents met. That was cool. But anyways, one of the things that I really appreciated about it is that just the reclamation, and the ability to find her and carve her own path. And again, when we're talking about leadership and the different types of leadership, she's got 30,000 followers. So I think she's doing quite well for herself, right? And we're fortunate to have her join the Wîcihitowin circle. So thank you very much to Shayla Stonechild. So please, April, join me. Okay, quiet on the set. I always wanted to say quiet on the set. This is probably my only chance
I
in
believe
life.
so.
So that was an appropriate quiet on the set.
Okay.
So thank you very much to Shayla. I wanted to offer April a chance to offer any reflection that she did have before I started teasing her. So,
Well,
please.
I do think that, Shayla's presentation, it was more like a workshop. It was, learning different skills. And I think what really resonated with me was that, Shayla, she talks about her when she was younger and how she experienced the death of her father in prison, of taking his own life, and how traumatic that was for her. And then now how she works from a trauma-informed perspective. and you know, brings that, she recognizes that and then shares it out. So I think, you know, that's really important. And I think also for all of our organizations, to be aware of that, and to, you know, when we're working with people, and survivors and intergenerational effects of the residential schools, that trauma-informed perspective is just so critical to how we do our work. So Shayla, I think, really brought light to that, and that's you know, what really resonated with me. And that, you know, she came to a point in her life, she said it sounded like it was very clear to her that, you know, she came to this point in her life where she's gonna either choose to sort of fall under or move forward. And she very consciously, you know, made the choice to move forward and to heal and to learn how to heal. And now she works and helps so many other people, you know, with the work that she does. And you know, as a young person, I think that it's so encouraging and inspiring, you know, that again, we learn, just like Davis, you know, the young people, we can learn so much from them. They see things from a very different perspective than we do.
Yeah, that's definitely some of the things that I think, you know, that really resonated with me. I think, you know, kind of following Ira and Davis's presentation as well too. I think, you know, it was really neat to see. And the neat thing about some of our presenters is that they've never actually been in the room with us when we're doing the planning. And so it was really neat to kind of have Ira and Davis's message of, you know, especially when we're learning, you know, to not laugh, you know. It's always fun to respectfully, you know, encourage and poke fun, but never in a rude way that you're actually trying to hurt, you know. And it's important to distinguish the two. And it was comforting to watch Shayla even just kind of poke fun a little bit at herself, you know, as she, you know, was reclaiming her inner fire, you know. She even,
and I also like that she was not afraid to try the work with the
yes,
language.
exactly, right.
And she was very open and vulnerable with that.
And she even put on the bottom of the presentation at that one point, I should have just named this presentation "Reclaiming Your Fire" and not "Reclaiming Your Escote." Or my friend Rick Daniels is probably just rolling over saying, "Oh, I always got to teach that guy the proper pronunciations of these words." So I remember he was teaching me how to say "earth" in Cree one time. And it was a big event. It was actually the Community Foundation's event. And I was telling a whole room of 800 people how to pronounce the word earth in Cree. Aski, I kept saying. And Rick was just in the back, and I could see him, oh, this bugger, he said. Aski. And so I had to go and correct the whole darn room about how to say this. So I'm not a language teacher.
But it's also important that we don't have that fear.
Yes,
That
yes.
people they're not laughing at us, they're just supporting us.
Yes, you know, and we always want to make our teachers proud. So Rick, sorry about that. You'll probably call me tonight, hopefully, and tell me how to say fire the proper way. But we're almost halfway done with you in 2020. That's always exciting. It's kind of sad at the same time. I'm looking, we are going to end everybody, the broadcast pretty quick. We are going to be starting tomorrow. But one of the things that we're super excited about is tomorrow. I think hopefully you guys get to converse with each other and your families and all your home fires tonight when you get to go home. Hopefully you start lively in the chat again tomorrow, and everybody's fired up tomorrow. But let me just give you a little bit of a run through or a taste, since we didn't do a lot of advertising on who our speakers were. But tomorrow morning, you are going to be super excited. We've got Chris Scribe joining us in the morning.
Yeah, beautiful.
We've got Marilyn Patra joining us for the morning. And then for the afternoon, we've got the Survivors Circle, and we've got the Messages of Hope. And it's hard to pick, you know, because they're all good, you know. And so, yeah, I hope you tune in. I hope you join us all tomorrow. I hope you tell your friends. I hope you start following April on social media. I hope you follow Wîcihitowin on social media. Please share as much as you can a lot of these, what you learned today.
Sorry.
We call that lateral violence in some communities. but we'll talk about that tomorrow. We've got some lessons to learn tomorrow.
Okay.
Before we move on, April, and before I hand it off to you and your army of followers, I just want to point out and thank once again, and I can't do it enough. I want to thank all of our investors, and I'll start right from our premier sponsor who's been with us right from the start, Nutrien. I really got to give a big shout out to them and their team, Lisa Mooney, a big supporter, and everybody at Nutrien. You know, I want to thank Ken Seitz for his great words at opening us up today. I want to thank our friends at Nutrien, our Saskatoon Community Foundation. Sorry, it's been a long day and a lot to think about and a lot to take in. Our friends at Saskatoon Community Foundation for your continued support. I want to thank our partner investor this year, the University of Saskatchewan as well too. But again, this couldn't have happened without all of these organizations stepping up. You know, all of the partner organizations, the Public Library, the Saskatoon Public Library, the City of Saskatoon, United Way of Saskatoon and area, Johnson Sheroma Graduate School of Public Policy and Reconciliation, Saskatoon. So just thank you very much for your continued support. Please join us tomorrow again, and I am going to leave April some time to send us off in a good way.
So, and one other thing too I liked about Shayla's presentation is, you know, in the morning we started with a smudge, and now she ended us our day with a smudge, which I think is a really sort of nice and fitting closing for our first day of Wîcihitowin. I just want to, I want to give a acknowledgement to all those who are on the committee. It takes a whole family of supporters on this committee, the Wîcihitowin committee. Basically, you know, as soon as the conference ends, they start planning for the next year. And actually, it's already in plans for next year, isn't it? Yes, speakers and dates. And so I'd like to just read out the names of all those on the committee and thank them and acknowledge the immense amount of work that they do all year to be able to put this on, and in particular this year, because it has been so different and so challenging in a lot of ways. So I'm going to start with Elder Gilbert Kiwastep, Eugene Arcand, Lorna Arcand, Tracy Bird, who is here for support today, Brad Bird, also here for support. I believe he's our official doorman. Melissa Cote, Tanya Dunn-Pierce, Andrea Howe, Neil Kiwastep, Roy Lavalley, Heather Droz, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a very special shout out to Erica Schindel.
Oh, I thought you were going to say April Soul.
To Erica Schindel.
Yes, Erica,
who
thank you.
is today resting so very comfortably now, and very, very, very happy because I believe it has been a wonderful day. So Erica, shout out to you. You can hopefully have a good rest tonight. We promise we'll do our best again tomorrow. Yeah.
Lovely host at the United Way of Saskatoon and area, one of our partners. Thank you so much for the beautiful space and keeping us nice and comfortable as we come at you live with Wîcihitowin. I just want to, if you have to sum up today in 2 words, I already got my 2.
Well, and so
I already
you
got
didn't
my
really
2.
give me a heads up about this now.
I just asked you.
Okay. 2 words.
2 words. That's all you get this time.
2 words.
Just 2.
I am going to say,
I can go first if you'd like.
regeneration
Oh,
and again, a hard one, accountability.
Holy smokes. So those are 2 $10 words. Okay, so that's about $20. My 2 words for today, pure money. Yeah. I don't know why. I just think
Pure money.
everyone today was so
It's
good, was so rich,
It was.
rewarding. I just
It was
think
a
there was
different
so much there.
experience.
So I hope everybody has a good evening.
And I'm just gonna, sorry.
Please,
I'm
no,
gonna-
no.
Just
no,
one
no,
more
no,
thing.
of course.
I made a mistake earlier, and now my turn to eat crow. So the survey actually is not on our webpage. It's going to be sent to you in an email. It won't be available on the website. So please look for that email, and please fill out that survey. It's a very quick, 7 questions, I believe, and very, very quick check. So we'd love to hear from you.
If you want to advocate that the hosts get paid more, by all means, that's where you give that feedback on that survey. More of this.
Okay,
We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good night.
have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.